after going with the slicer option, let's explore some other option available with pivot table analyze, and the next one is the with the data. So now we have made the this pivot table with this from the main data only. We just applied it with the insertion and just clicked on the pivot table, and then we had this pivot table into the new worksheet. Now, what if I'm making any changes here? So for example, I'm replacing the country Canada, or let me add one more country here. I will be adding one more row, but with a different country this time. So it should be having this country also in the pivot table as well. So I will be adding India here in this sheet. It's a new country. It was not added before in this data set. So let me add this. Let me insert a row here. And after insertion, let me copy it for an hour. I have copied it, and this time I'm changing this country's name to India. So now this should be reflected here. This India should be reflected here. So what we can do, let me go back and click on this pivot table analyze. I'll click on this refresh. So as I have clicked on refresh, this India has been appeared here. So how it happened? This pivot table was made on the basis of this main data. If I am doing any kind of a changes, I need to refresh this pivot table as well. And we can refresh it by using Alt plus F5 or clicking on the refresh. So this is getting the latest data by refreshing all the sources in the workbook. The second option that is available with this data ribbon is change the data source. And for example, I want to change the data source this time. Before that, I have given this main data and I have another sheet and I want to change the data source now to that another sheet. That I also can do. I'll click on this change data source. So this time I need to provide the table or the range here. Right now it is selected here, and you can change it to some other data source as well. So this is your choice. After having the pivot table also, you can change the data source. Like you are working on this main data and something happened, and that time you're changing everything you don't want. Or maybe the other example can be you want to increase or decrease the data range. In that case, you can use this option that is available with pivot table analyze. You can refresh the data with Alt plus F5. You can change the data source depending on your condition. So it is not like that you have made the pivot table and you need to make the table again, or you can't do anything here. This is allowed here. This is very much allowed. So you can change the data source as well. You can refresh the data as well depending on the conditions here. Next ribbon is action. So for now, till now, what we have covered? We have covered the name of the pivot table. We have learned about the active field. We learned about the field settings. We have learned about the grouping as well, ungroup and the group selection. And this will be enabled only once I'll have a group name here. And then we have learned about the filtration option. We learned about how we can have the help with inserting the slicer here. We can insert the timeline as well. Use a timeline to filter dates interactively. Timelines make it faster and easier to select time periods in order to filter pivot tables, pivot charts, and cube function. Pivot tables we are learning, and later on we will learn about pivot charts and cube functions as well. Then we learned about this ribbon tab, this ribbon that is data ribbon, and that is refresh and change data source. Now let's come to actions now. So we have actions ribbon now. So it's written here clear, select and move pivot table. So with this, if I click on that clear filter, so it will not be affecting here because we don't have any filter for now. If I click on clear all, I'm done with my data set. So nothing is selected here. My pivot table is cancelled. Everything has been undoed here. If I undo here, so I'll get my data back. So you can clear the things with this clear fields. And how it is happening? It is happening with remove fields, formatting and filters. So we can clear all with this filtration thing. Then next we have the select. What we can do with the select? So with select an element of the pivot table, so you can select a particular, now what you want to select. See, I have this cursor here. You just can see it's on Germany, that's A6. If I select what, I want to select entire table. So this selection is possible with the select thing. Now I can go for a label or volume also. I can go with the values as well. See, this is the values only. I can go with label cells. Just see the how this selection is working here. So I click here, entire pivot table you want, or you want to have labels and values as well. You just want to have the values here. You just want to have the labels here, and or otherwise enable. Another option is, let me go with that. Now I'm not selecting anything. I am at my pivot table. In that select, I am going to enable selection. So this time, whenever I am moving my cursor, that time actually changing this thing. So I am going through and enabling the selection. So this selection is possible with the select. So it is up to you how you want to do the selection. So this select clear is for clearing everything from the pivot table. Filter right now we don't have. If we have filters, in that case we can provide the filters. You can see here we are not using any kind of filter here. So if we would have used the filters, in that case what we can done, we can actually clear those filters by using this option. Clear all is deleting everything from the data. And then we have the select. In the select, what we are doing, we can actually select the entire table, or we can go for the labels and the values. We can go for the values, labels, and otherwise we can use the enable selection option. Next, we have the option move pivot table. So now I am at my pivot table. And if I click on move pivot table, so this is giving me another option where you want to choose another area where you want to move your pivot table. Choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. You want to have it in a new worksheet, you can have it. If I click on that, so I'll be getting a sheet 2. There I have the data. If I go back and check, see, sheet 1 is empty. Now it is actually moved. It is moved from sheet 1 to sheet 2. And how this movement has been placed, this movement is from the move pivot table. If you want to have an existing worksheet, now you need to tell the location. So in this location, instead of A3, let me put something A15. If I put here A15 and I click on OK, this is in the existing worksheet only. So this will be moved to another place. I'll move it to again to if a new worksheet, I'll get a sheet 3. Now sheet 2 is again empty. So sheet 1, sheet 2, now it is shifted to sheet 3. Initially we shifted it from sheet 1 to sheet 2, and then from sheet 2 to sheet 3. And here also what else we learned? We learned that we can actually move it, like we can move it to existing worksheet as well. Here you can decide where you want to put it. Like right now I want to have it at I-17. So I'll write here I-17. I-17 is the location, and if I click on OK, this will be shifted here. So this movement I can do it here. I'll get this movement to maybe new worksheet now. So this is the new worksheet. I'll be deleting the rest of the sheets for the safer side so that we should be aware where we are working here. I have deleted all other sheets, or maybe what we can do, like we can have the main data, and here we can write like data summary. So this is our sheet name here, data summary. So we can go through that all the summary of the data in this sheet. And whenever we are making changes, so it is advisable to refresh the data so that it should be having a latest information with us, and you can have the exact report on the data set. We talked about clear, we talked about the selection, we talked about the moving of the table. We have covered this actions thing also, option with the pivot table analyze. Next we have the calculation. This is very important one. So what we have in the calculation, what we can do in the calculation, I have selected this table. I'm at this pivot table, and in here if I click on fields, now this is calculated field. This is the same thing. Now whenever you want to put any other formula, you can put it here, and you can add those fields here. So it is giving the other options as well. Let me select here, this time manufacturing price. Let me select here manufacturing price. So I'll give a name it to here. So this might be field 1 only. Formula right now we are not providing. I will be inserting a field here, manufacturing price, and we'll be clicking here. So this will be also added here, manufacturing price. So we can add more fields and items here. We can have the changes in the orders also. We can have the list of the formula as well. So this all is allowed with these field, item, and set. So basically if you want to add one more field here, you can do it from here as well. or you can go through this as well. So to add or remove a particular field, this is with the calculation only, and whatever options are available from the same table array, it is giving you, it is providing you that particular column as well. Next, we have some other tools. We talked about pivot charts as well. This is very important. Pivot charts, it's a very useful tool. Let me click on that pivot chart. So we have learned about the charts in the previous session as well. It was a simple chart. We talked about these charts to use it for your data representation whenever you are working on data analysis. So it is good to have the charts and graphs with you. See, we have this data. It's better to present it in the form of the chart so that your user or your client can have a clear understanding of the data set. So if I click on this pivot chart, now I can have the output based on this. So we have the option, all other options we have the option for column, we have the option for the line, we have the option for the pie, bar, area, XY scatter, map, stock market, surface, radar, tree map, sunburst, histogram, box and whisker, waterfall, funnel, combo. So it's up to you, or it's up to us how you want to take the all the outputs. Let me take the in column only, or I'll go for the bar so that I can have a clear output understanding here. I'll click on OK. So I have the output with me. So this is for sum of field. Let me delete for this now. We will not have this input here. I will be deleting this field, this new field. So we are not considering it for now. I'll be deleting it from here only, sum of field. I'll remove this field. Now field is removed. We have now total profit with us. We have total sale price with us, gross sales and unit sold. So I'll click on pivot table analyze, and what I'll do, I'll click on pivot chart. This time what we are taking, see, you are clicking here and you're getting different kind of output. Preview is already available, so it's very easy for you to decide what you want to choose here. I'll go for the bar for this time, and I'll have this kind of a bar. This is good to understand, or I'll go for this and I'll click on OK. This is the graph here, so you can see the values. See, there is a huge difference between the values. That is why this is not visible here. And other thing, this gross sales is visible because of having the higher value, and other things you can see here. This is for total profit, sale price, and gross sales is less value. So this is minutely be is enabled. So rather than showing this kind of data to your client, you can directly come to this kind of data and it will be more presentable. So your data is summarized as well, and how you from the charts you are providing the data summary of your data. So whatever analysis you have done, you have calculated the growth, you have predicted something, or you have find out the trend line of the data set, and same understanding of the data, whatever is the resultant of your data set, that you can represent through the pivot charts. And similarly we can try other chart as well. So it is up to you, or it is depending on the data which type of chart suits to the data, and same you can choose it for your data set. For example, I'll go with the tree map is not available here. I'll go with a line column only, line. So in the line, what you can have output like this. This is for now total units sold, total gross sales, total sale price, and total profit. So this you can choose it here with whatever you want to choose. So you can go for any particular country as well. Let me select only this time India, and I'll click on OK. So it will give me output something, though that output was very less, so it is not shown here. Let me go for United States of America as well. That time I'll get the output here. So this is the decline and this is the line column here, and you can see it here. Now we have only two output because whatever filtration we did in the pivot chart, that is also applicable to the pivot table as well. Now I'll select all and I'll get the output for that. So this is the functionality with the pivot table analyze. So just by making a pivot table, you can have the charts as well. Now the interesting one is the recommended tables, recommended pivot tables. So want us to recommend pivot tables that summarize your complex data? Click this button to get a customized set of pivot tables that way we think the best suit for your data. So here actually this Microsoft Excel is smartly acting and providing you some recommended pivot tables. See here what we have: sum of profit by country, sum of product by country, sum of profit by segment, and then discount, then sales, COGS we have, manufacturing prices. So based on the different fields, Microsoft Excel actually recommended us some pivot table. Let me click this sum of profit by month, number, and country. And if I click on this, preview is visible here. If I click on OK here, so I have the data set with me. This is the recommended pivot table. So if it is suits to your application, can go with the recommended pivot table as well. Otherwise, you can decide on your own which fields or which columns you want to have as filter, as column, as row, or as values. So here we have taken for the sum of profit, and other recommendation it is giving us to sum of product. If I click, so I'll have the output like this. So if it fits your criteria, then you can choose the recommendation system as well. The last one, the last option available with pivot table analyze is show. Now you just see here how it works. It's very simple. In show, it is the property for that pivot table field. If I click on field list, let me enhance it first so that you can understand the output. Now you can see here, we can see the all the fields available to add to the report. This is here drag fields, dragging area. Here we have the option for filter, column, rows, and columns. So if I uncheck this field list, so this entire window has gone. If I click on that, I'll get it again. Okay, if I uncheck this button, show or hide button, these buttons allow you to expand or collapse items within the pivot table. So these buttons will be gone from that side. So right now we don't have those buttons. Let me take a grouping here so that you will understand. I'll have a group selection, a group for Canada and France. I'll have a group here. And now we have this grouping section. Now, if I click on that, now this is checked. You can see this buttons here. So these buttons, what it is saying, like show or hide button, these buttons allow you to expand or collapse items within the pivot table. With this button, I can actually expand it or have it according to my condition. So if I uncheck this, in that case, I will not be getting it. So it's better to have, so I need to just double click on that and expand it to get the complete data set. Otherwise, you can have the buttons with you so that you are aware that what we have in the grouping Canada and France, Germany, Mexico, and United States of America. Then we have the field headers. It display the field headers for rows and column. If I uncheck this, see this is gone. If I click on this, this is available here. So it is up to you what you want to show. You want to have this field list. So have it with the enabling it. If you want to have buttons, just have it with the enable or disable. And similarly, we can do with the field headers as well. In fact, you can add more tables. If you want to recreate a pivot table, that you need to do here, you want to do some kind of filtration here, that actually you can do it from here. This option, otherwise in the right click also we have some option. This is move up, move down, move to beginning, move to end. This is to set the order here. Move to report filter, move to column labels, move to values, or ultimately you want to remove this field, you can do that. Or in the field settings, we already covered this. So this is all about pivot table. What we have covered, we learned about how we can insert the pivot table. Then after inserting the pivot table, this pivot table analyze is enabled. We have pivot table name here, we have the active field here, grouping option, inserting the slicer, having the timeline with us. In that data, we can change the data source or we can refresh the data set. Whenever you're making some changes or it is advisable before looking into data, just refresh it your data set. Then you can have the action with clear and selection, or you can move the pivot table. Field settings we can do, we can add more fields by this option. Then we have the pivot chart. Whenever you're presenting your report, it's better to have it in the form of the charts and graphs, and pivot chart helps you to do that. And recommendation system sometimes works so well that you can have that output directly just by clicking that without doing anything. And whatever option you want to show in pivot table wizard, that you can select it from the show ribbon. Let's come back to the slide now again. So we have covered all the options available with the pivot table. We covered pivot table name, we covered active fields, we covered group, filter, data, actions, calculation, tools, and show. What we have after that, we have the formatting also, pivot table formatting that you can do. So how you can do this formatting, now learn about that formatting. So in formatting, we have the option to for layout, pivot table style options we have table styles, and after this pivot table analyze, we get one more tab that is design. So we'll talk about this now. We'll see in the Microsoft Excel also. So we can have the different outputs here as well. Let's see what we have with the formatting. So I am having the same. I have the country, I have the sum of product. Let me add some more things here so that we can see. I'll go with my pivot table recommendation system only. So this time let me have some more values here. I'll be going with sum of profit by country. I can have a good output. Let me take some more things here. So I'm going through this is. So this time I have two more columns by year wise. If I try something else, profit by segment. So I have this output is with me. Now this is with the channel partners, enterprise, government, mid-market and small business. So this is for 2013, then it is for 2014, the sum of profit, and we have the grand total here as well. Now let's come to the design. In design, we have the options for layout. We have the option for pivot table style option and pivot table styles. First we will talk about subtotals. So in subtotals, just see the output here, what is visible right now. Now I click on subtotals, do not show subtotals. If I click on that, so this time subtotal is already not there, so it is not gone. If I click show all subtotals at the bottom group, it is given here. So we can make the changes here. Let me change this pivot chart. I will go with this pivot table analyze and clear all. Yes, clear all works here. This time what I'm selecting, I'm having the country. I'll click on the country. I'll click on the sale price. I'll click on the gross sales. I'll click on the profit. And I will also click on the discounts here. Here I'm having the sum values, that is fine with me. India is also given here. So let me delete this India for now, and so that we can have a good output with us, because it's only a single value and it is affecting the complete data set. I have deleted this value here. I'm coming back to my data summary. I will be deleting other things here, and in the data summary, now I need to refresh my data. I'll click on refresh. So this India is gone because I have deleted this from the main data. Now this time I have the pivot table here. Let's go back to the design. In the design, let's click on the subtotal. Now what I am doing, I'll be selecting this pivot table. I don't want to see any subtotal here. Subtotal is already not visible here. In this case, we don't have subtotals. So let's try to have a group here because it is working for the groups now. How these groups are working? Let's try that. Let me make other group now. I'll go back to pivot table analyze group selection. So I have the groups now. Groups are working. So now in the groups, I have the subtotal here. So we are talking about this. I'll go back to design and I'll show do not show subtotals. Now subtotals for a group is gone. If I click on show all subtotals at bottom of group, it will be worked here. If I click on at top of group, so now you can see it's at the top. So we have the total for the group and it is on the top. If I want to have at the bottom of the group, it will be shifted to the bottom of the group. If you don't want the subtotals, just click on do not show subtotal. So it works for the group here. Do not show subtotal. Show all subtotals at bottom of group, or you can have show all subtotals at top of group. So this is your choice. Then we have the grand total. Grand total we are talking about here. So off for rows and columns. If I click on that, so the grand total has gone. If I click here on for rows and columns, it will come here. Similarly, you can on it for rows as well. You can have it for on for columns only. So this time we have the data here only. So that is why it is calculated for the column. If we would have data for rows, so there also the same things will be applicable. So we have off for rows and columns, on for rows and columns, on for rows only, on for columns only. So this is about this grand total. So you can decide whether you want to have these grand totals automatically or not. It's your choice. If you want to have, you can include it. Otherwise, you can discard this from choosing this option. By default, it will be visible and you can make the changes by offing it for the records. So I'll click it for now. Let me on it for some rows and columns. Then I have the report layout with me. What we have in the report layout, it is, if I click on, just see on the changes what we are doing, show in compact form. So this is the default version, show in outline form. So now this description has changed. You can see some things here. So borders are mixed up or all the changes has been done. This is the form of the report. You want to have in a tabular form, you'll see all the borders here. Repeat all items labels. So this repetition is done now for the groups now. If I go for the do not repeat that item, that will be gone for that group item. So this is up to you how you want to have the report layout. I'll go with again. This is the compact form, the outline form, and then we have tabular form. Then we have repeat all items labels. Then we have do not repeat item labels. So whatever suits with you, you can go for that. Right now I'm working with the compact form. Next we have the blank rows. So this again very interesting. So if you click on insert blank line after each item, you'll see a blank line here. Let me go for a tabular form. There you can have it a good look. So here you can see the blank row here. If I want to remove it, I can do it. So now no blank row will be written here. If I insert blank row is given here. If I remove it, I can do it. So blank rows, insertion or removal is in your hands. Next we have the things row header, banded rows and column headers and banded columns. So if I uncheck this row headers, so this time header is gone. You can see here this is not bold now. If I click on row header, it is treating as a header for that. Similarly, we can do for the columns as well. This is the styling option. If I want to have a banded rows, these are the banded rows. If I want to have the banded columns, I have the banded columns here. And the other styles like we have for the table, we have for the pivot table as well. So just I'm taking my mouse over it, you can see the preview. In light themes we can have. So whatever theme you want to choose for the pivot table, you can choose. You can go for the medium one also. You can go for the dark one also. This we already covered in table style as well. Similarly, we have the pivot table style as well. You want to clear it, you can have clear view for that, and then you can choose it. I can have a different style for that. If you want to have a new pivot table style, I'll click on that. So here you can decide what you want to do it. You want to change, you want to have a different format for there. So this is up to you. You want to filter value, whatever value you want to change. Like I want to have something special for first row strip. This I can format and choose font color. I can choose the border. I can choose the fill option. So if that design pivot table style is according to your choice, then you can go for this. Otherwise, you can make your on pivot style as well. If I'll make this, let me make it here. I'll make it for the whole table and I'll format it. Format in that fill, I'm just choosing the yellow color. I'm clicking OK and OK. So when I'll click on this, I'll get my customized one also. So this is my customized one. Before that, I can view only light, medium and dark theme. Now I have this custom theme as well for the my pivot table style. So similarly, you can make your on style as well. This was all about the design tab with pivot table styles.